Welcome to the Wealthy Business Goddess Show for purpose-driven, passion-fueled spiritual entrepreneurs ready to live their purpose, passion and prosperity as they create the life and business of their dreams whilst transforming the world, doing what they love and making fabulous money. Each week we bring you inspiring and empowering topics, popular thought leaders to empower you to transform all areas of your life and business. With your host, spiritual intuitive, entrepreneur, transformational business coach and mentor, Kimberly Lovell.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Kimberly Lovell, all the way from the UK again. I love my UK guests, always bring something rather intriguing, and we have got archetypes for you today. Now, I often hear people talking about archetypes, but who are they? What are they? What the hell does it mean? Well, we're going to dive into that today and find out. And we're going to be particularly talking around financial abundance. A lot of people misconstrued that when you are living in spirituality or living with soul in any form of divine essence, therefore you've committed a vow of poverty and that money is evil. There is so far away from that it's quite ridiculous. It's that we look at money in a different way. It's a tool. It's not got the power over us. It doesn't define us. We understand it's a working tool that we can use to embetter what we do and embetter the world. So that is the approach that we are meant to have of it. But I know that it's very, very hard because in a lot of the times when you live in that spiritual world or you're doing spiritual business, we are such givers and we want to make everybody well and better and happy and joyful that we don't place the importance on that monetary gain because it actually feeds us, literally. So it's finding that balance and giving yourself permission to be abundant. And we're going to really, this is for everybody today, anybody can listen to the show, but we're going to focus in on those coaches and those healers out there that are doing such wonderful work for humanity and to help people find their equilibrium and their balance and their beauty in life, to which Kimberly can also talk about because she is multidimensional, even though we're only targeting one particular subject today. But to empower you to actually embrace that the importance of you also must be a monetary importance as well, and that do not look at money as something evil or something that is going to take away your spiritual power. It's that balance. So the archetypes are going to actually tell us how you look at money or how money looks at you. Now, just a little input here. I recently found out from somebody who's been working on my soul core, and she said, did you know that you wrote a vow of poverty some lifetimes ago, and this has been traveling with you from one lifetime to another? And I thought, oh my God, that makes sense. Because no matter what I do, I can't seem to make money or hold on to it. And it's always I'm giving it away. And this made sense to it. So the vow of poverty has been incinerated, it's been drowned, it's been courted, it's been totally and utterly destroyed. And this show personally for me is absolutely perfect because I'm opened up to the vow of prosperity and abundance. And I'm going to find out if my archetype can actually invite that. And the approach that we look to wealth and that financial abundance and how we invite it. So let's bring our beautiful expert in, Kimberly, and find out how we do embrace that financial abundance, how we look at it, and how we invite it, because that's very, very important. Welcome to the show, Kimberly.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Well, a very appropriate time for me. So nothing, it's always, the universe always answers, right? And it was, I need help, and there you were, right? So I'm going to be a little greedy today and go, okay, you can use me as a guinea pig, please do, and discuss what the archetypes are all about. First and foremost, I know you do so much, and we will get through that in the show, but we're going to focus in on the archetypes today. Mm-hmm. What are archetypes? Because we hear it all the time, but nobody kind of really explains it.
Yeah, so I have to say that kind of working with money is a a huge part of my mission. Because we all, as you're saying, we all need money. We live in a society where we are exchanging our goods and our services for money, and money is just energy. But gosh, we have so much stuff around it.
Yeah.
So it's huge, and particularly spiritual, heart-centered people. So archetypes are just a fascinating tool to be able to work with, and I use them both for working with people around their money mindset, but also for branding. I do branding with archetypes and something called sacred money archetypes. So for me, healing the split in the collective consciousness between money and spirituality is absolutely vital, because I'm all about helping to transform the world and empowering the healers, therapists and coaches to be able to do that. Without the money, they can't live their purpose, they can't help people, all of that stuff. So I'm so excited to share about the archetypes. So the archetypes were really developed by a guy called Carl Jung, who was a psychiatrist many, many years ago. And so a lot of people have heard of the mother archetype, the father archetype, the queen. So the queen is like the ruler. So in the sacred money archetypes, I actually work with 8 different archetypes. Okay, some of those will probably jump out at people and they'll recognize them or think, yeah, that's me. I'll go through a little bit about each archetype, and we're going to look and see specifically about your archetypes as well, Sarah, so that's exciting. Yeah, well, actually we could kind of dive in around your particular archetypes, because you've got a couple that I share as well, not necessarily in the sacred money archetype system, but in the branding I've got the alchemist that you've got, and I've also got the maverick, which you have. I've got that one in my sacred money archetypes. So yeah, we've got the maverick, the nurturer, the alchemist, the connector, the accumulator, the ruler, we've got the romantic and the celebrity. So these are the 8 archetypes I work with in the sacred money archetypes. Now, all of the archetypes can make money, okay? They're really, if you think about, I kind of often talk about sub-personalities. So people have heard of, the rebel. And the rebel is very much the maverick archetype. The maverick archetype is the inner rebel with a cause, okay? So it's not the rebel without a cause, it's the rebel with a cause. So when we work with our archetypes and we can align them, then we can, find the abundance, and we can be more aligned with our purpose, our passion and the prosperity. Often what I see with people is that there are conflicts. So there's certain archetypes that aren't working together, they're in conflict with one another. So the maverick, if you imagine, you can have the positive expression or the negative expression of the archetypes working through you. And so the maverick is the inner rebel with a cause, but sometimes people have a maverick and they don't have the cause. Right. So they're kind of, the maverick just wants to say no and rebel. So often people with the maverick archetype, and I'm one of them.
I'm a very high one too, by my score.
Yeah, we don't like authority figures, because the mavericks are kind of like born leaders. They like to do things their way and like to do things differently. So they don't like being told what to do. They don't like the rules and the regulations, they like to think outside the box. They like to take risks and to do things their way, to do things slightly differently. They're quite creative. Those are all kind of like some positive traits, but you can see that, it could get a little bit out of hand. We've all got rules and regulations that we need to adhere to at times. But yeah, so the maverick is great, especially in business, because, as I said, it's very creative and it will kind of be like a pioneer, if you like, charting new waters. But the maverick is a bit of a risk taker. They like to gamble. One of the things that happens with the maverick is that they can be attracted to get-rich quick opportunities, which is great if that works for you. That's fine. But yeah, they're a little bit sometimes scanners, so they like to go from one thing to another thing. They like that kind of difference. They get bored quite easily. So what can happen is that they're kind of like off chasing the next shiny object, rather than focusing on, a business plan and a particular business model and kind of following through on the steps. They may try one thing and then they may switch and kind of get a bit bored with it and do something else. So the challenge for the Maverick is to balance the extremes, really, like the extreme risks and financial security, so that there's kind of more of an even keel where money's concerned. A flow is what you want to have with money. So often what happens with the Maverick is you get kind of like the feast or famine, yeah? So it's all or nothing.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
Way too much.
Okay. And, I love the Maverick. Often the Maverick as well, they're not, they can be not as focused on the money. They're not as focused because they don't like boring things. Mm-hmm. So things like bank account statements, they're not as on the ball with those, perhaps. So sometimes they're not really keeping up with the money stuff, and they kind of bury their heads a bit like an ostrich, bury their head in the sand. So I have worked with quite a few people who've got the Maverick archetype that at some point or other maybe have kind of accumulated some debt or something simply because of those strategies, or they've maybe invested in something that didn't work out because they
Just described me completely.
Gamble, so it's good to invest. I've invested, a ton of money in my business mentoring and coaching. That's good, but it's about knowing the return on investment and taking measured risks. But the Maverick can sometimes just leap without really looking or thinking, or without following through. Yeah. So that's your top archetype. So the thing with the top 3 archetypes is that your top archetype is really quite prominent and plays out in quite a big way in your life. And the second archetype, which in your case is the nurturer, should and could support the positive aspects of the first archetype. Yeah. So the nurturer is like your inner sponsor. Okay, and some of the things that you were talking about there in the intro were really interesting, because that's very much the nurturer. So the nurturer is the giver. Sometimes, gives beyond their limits, their reserves. So they give so much to other people, but they forget to look after and nurture themselves, honour themselves. So their biggest gift to their clients and to their business would be to empower themselves. So they don't need to give away all the time or all the money. Yeah. So often people who've got the nurturer archetype have been either emotionally, but often financially as well, financially supporting others, and so often some of the underlying beliefs around that are that they have to give, they have to support others in order to be loved, or they have to give in order to receive, so they're very much focused on that giving.
That's the way the value is, right?
Which is, it's a great thing to be able to give, but everything needs to be in balance. So we also need to learn how to receive. Yeah. And so I find a lot of nurturers really are challenged in the area of receiving.
And that's been a huge lesson for me in the last few years.
Yeah, me too.
I gave away too much and then completely depleted, and I had to learn to receive, which was extremely hard for me to do.
Yes. Yeah. It's so interesting. I think that whole thing around receiving, for a lot of people that are in that, empowering people, coaching, healers, therapists, is huge, because we're kind of focused on the other person. But yeah, I remember this really hit home for me back last year. It was a silly little thing, really. I was away on a conference, and I'd gone into a coffee shop, which was kind of connected with the seminar, and went to get my purse out of my bag, and I'd found I'd left it back at the house. So I asked the person behind me, who was also staying at the same house as me, can I borrow some money? And the guy behind the counter said, "Oh no, it's fine, have the coffee on us." And I was like, "Oh no, it's okay, I'll borrow it and then I'll pay him back later." And he's like, "No, have it on us." And I just really struggled to be okay with it, right? And to the point that it was just crazy. He made me the coffee. I took the coffee. "Thank you. I'll pay you tomorrow." No, it's on us. Okay. All the way to the seminar, drinking my coffee. I was walking across to the doors, saying to myself, "Okay, right. Well, I'm sure that when I get back, the purse is on my bed, and then I'll bring it in, and I'll pay them tomorrow." And then I caught myself, and I realized how ridiculous I was being for maybe like $2 for a coffee,
Yeah.
right? And I hadn't even allowed myself to receive the gift of, $2 for a coffee.
Well, to interject on that, one of the things as a giver and not a receiver, we forget that we need to allow other people to give gifts.
Exactly.
All right, and it's not just about us getting; it's about us giving the gift of someone to gift us. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And a hard one to do if you're like that.
Yeah, so fascinating. But yeah, so the Nurturer is amazing at, they make great sponsors, great coaches, great empowerers, always looking out for people and supportive and cheerleaders, but they really need to make sure that they are looking out for themselves, that they take time for themselves, because we can invest, in different ways. We can be investing emotionally, we can give people time, we can give people money. But again, it's about taking time for ourselves, resting, relaxing, taking time out, and also investing in ourselves, investing in our business and so forth. So,
Every nurturer I know has completely burnt out.
Yes.
And, being completely depleted, including myself, and then had to start all over again,
Yeah.
kind of partly broken.
Yes.
And so I think Maverick is kind of, as you said, the go-getter. I've got a cause, boom, boom, boom. But, the nurture it's like, kind of almost we don't feel whole unless we're giving something of ourselves away.
Yes.
But if we keep giving away and we're not replenishing, what have we got to give? We're running on empty. There's nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So there's a warning with Nurturer.
Yeah, very much so.
You may expire if you don't pay some nurturing on yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yes. Yeah, put your own oxygen mask on, isn't it?
Exactly. Learn to oxygenate yourself, most certainly.
Yeah, so, but in terms of your Maverick, the Nurturer can support the Maverick, because the Nurturer is kind of like, the Nurturer stands back more, whereas the Maverick's right out there in front, they're gone. The Nurturer is kind of much more encouraging, but more of a steadying influence. So I think that, that the Nurturer could be really good influence for your Maverick.
Kind of the conscience in a lot of ways, right?
Yes, yeah, that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's good. Yeah. So and then you've got the Alchemist, which is the inner idealist, is the Alchemist. Now a lot of people that are in the world of transformation in whatever way have got an Alchemist archetype, and the Alchemist is all about ideas. The Alchemist, the sacred purpose is about transformation and magic, so an alchemist can churn out ideas faster than you could write them down, It's
God, yes.
There's just so many. I was talking with a guy the other day, an entrepreneur, and he was, we were talking about business ideas and plans that he had, and it was like, we have so many ideas, so many plans, we can't possibly implement them all, so the Alchemist is great because there's all this information that we're kind of connecting with and all these resources that we can generate, but actually the challenge is about focusing and transforming these ideas into financial success. So a lot of alchemists, maybe have, I don't know if you write lists at all, Sarah, or you're into journaling, but, they have, these visions, these dreams, all these ideas and plans and quite, lofty plans and so forth, that so many though that they don't get off the ground, and sometimes the energy can be scattered.
Yeah, I can completely relate. I call myself a possibility person. I see the end picture, I want to put a hotel there where from the roots up I'm showing you and I'm telling you who's coming. I can see the end picture. But in my work, it's always allowed me to see the possibilities in other people.
Yes.
Because I can see those layers. And the nurturer in me wants them to see it too. And the maverick in me wants them to get on with it.
That's just great because we need all of that, right?
Exactly, exactly.
But yeah, what I found with The Alchemist, and I do a lot of intuitive work with people, and so I'm always coming up with people's brand names, coming up with kind of like packages or programs for them, and all kinds of wonderful ideas that they're like, oh, I never thought of that. Well, I could do that all day long.
Yeah.
But for myself, then it's hard work because it's almost like The Alchemist is like a channel. So you're kind of tapping into this stream of consciousness, and there's millions of possibilities and probabilities kind of that one of the things I find with The Alchemist is that if I've been given an idea and I don't ground it and I don't pursue it, 6 months later I'll find somebody's got a book out with that name that I got. Yeah.
Yes, because you put it out there to the universe and somebody else purchased it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and it's because it's like this information or these ideas, these concepts are waiting to be birthed, and they're in, everything is already present, and we're kind of subconsciously picking them up, and we get this little idea and we're like, yeah. But of course, we can do, a few things at a time, but we can't do all of these ideas. So when we're in that, we've got great mental capacities, Alchemists are amazing at visioning, at ideas and strategies and resources, all that kind of stuff. But it's about following through. It's about transforming these ideas into success rather than kind of, some sort of one day maybe type of thing.
Yeah, and I would say through the years I've been kind of caught up with that, kind of the focusing or honing it in. And it's actually when I started writing, that I did start solidifying and seeing, actually just through my writing, actually discovering myself. Because I would just write, an idea came to head, let my fingers do the writing, kind of post it. And then later I would come back and read it and go, who wrote that? And I go, oh, it was me.
Yeah.
And I kind of discovered a lot about myself. So it became my honing in.
Yes.
And then kind of solidifying, as you said, those ideas. And I'm also a person, if I don't write it down or if I don't speak to it, it's gone because I'm such a now person.
Yes.
So it's, always have a pen and paper or something. Of course, people have iPhones, they can just record it. Because it was gifted to you in that moment. And if you don't have a memory to retain it, it's gone, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. Yeah, for sure. I know people have like little jars that they put things in. I'm kind of a laptop girl myself, so I kind of journal. I'm gone are the days of handwriting for me mostly. But yeah, whatever works for you. So some people I know, they kind of like write things down and they put them in a scrapbook or they put them in a little jar or something. And that's a really good way when you get lots of ideas and you've already got projects or plans that are on the go to do that. And then when you've completed that project, then go on to something different, unless of course it's some amazing project that's kind of come in and it's like that's it. But the tendency often is that we kind of get sidetracked and then we do too much multitasking and we are so scattered with our energy. So very much about focus.
Looking at these, these ones, they've 100% describe me, the Alchemist, Nurturer, and Maverick, but they're all visionaries. They're all about, seeing what needs to be done, nurturing, that's why I do the radio station. I celebrate people, I nurture their work so that other people will know about it and celebrate who they are and their ideas and helping them get out there and do what they need to do. But the one problem I have, which is something I'm always looking for, and I just find it so hard to find in me because it's not, is structure. And that's painful for me. I'm about to go through a process right now, and it's like I keep delaying it because I can't get the focus. So looking at these three alchemists, these three things, fantastic. But, I need a builder.
Well, here you go there. You see, your nurture, in a way, can be a builder. Because the nurture is all about supporting others, but it's about you supporting yourself and creating, one of the things, because each of these archetypes can apply in different areas of business as well. So, the alchemist is great, is the visionary, is the person that's kind of, or the part of you that's involved when you're doing your business plan and your business vision and mission, but the nurturer is... Nurture is also the kind of person that you want on your team, when we talk about the support, because it's about support and structures that are going to support you. So it could be about systems that will support you and team members that will support you. Very often, I know a lot of people in business, particularly women, I don't think men are as bad about this, but, I know I've struggled with this, is having other people support me, and letting go, because sometimes we feel we have to do it all ourselves. So that's a big thing when you're wanting to build your business. You can't do everything. You're not great at everything. Or you might be great at it, but you physically can't do it all. Yeah. So you do what you love doing, which obviously, you're in your element doing what you're doing right now. And then have other people that can support and maybe, help you out. Like I've got accountants and technical people and that kind of stuff,
Do you find people that, are mavericks, especially a high maverick, are kind of very often loners?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because, I talk to people all day long, obviously, and global station. But when it comes to it, I'm quite a loner because I find sometimes I think my maverick is too much for people.
Yes. As in, not it's too much, but yeah, I know what you're saying. There's a couple of archetypes like that, because I've got a ruler archetype. So, the ruler, ruler's an interesting one. The ruler is like the queen, okay? The ruler is about building an empire, which rulers are really good at. They're kind of very business orientated, again, kind of like good with the vision part. They're also really good with kind of creating a legacy. The challenge for the ruler archetype is to do it with grace and with ease, because often the ruler is driven by a belief that there's not enough. Okay, and that's something again I struggle with. But I think that again, for a lot of it doesn't matter about the archetype so much. A lot of times I see that with women in business, because there's this, when we're spiritually inclined, it's almost like we do feel that kind of bit where we're driven, and it's not from the point of, you're talking earlier on about the money stuff. It's not that we're focused on the money, but we know that we've got something to do in the world, and we just love what we're doing, and we just want to get on with it, right? So it's like we're driven, but then for the nurturer, what happens with the ruler is the ruler will work and work and work and work. So there's a tendency for overwork with a ruler. Okay, so it's a bit similar in some respects to the nurturer, but the ruler is more focused on getting the task done at whatever cost, it's got to be done. Whereas the nurturer will kind of be a bit more supportive around it and nice around it. But the belief that there's not enough and that they're not enough, and they've got to keep going, and they've got to do more and more and more. So underneath each of the archetypes there are these unconscious beliefs that run. So a lot of the work that I do with people is about clearing the unconscious beliefs. So you were talking about the vow of poverty.
Yes.
We've all got vows, oaths, vows, promises and contracts that we've made in other lifetimes. We've also got beliefs that are handed down on the ancestral level from our ancestors, sometimes in our genes, in our DNA, and sometimes in what we call the morphogenetic field, which is around our DNA. So sometimes there are stories and attitudes that get handed down, and sometimes, they've proven this now in epigenetics that, it could be 3 or 4 generations back, something happened in the family, and lo and behold, it's actually handed down, and you can see history repeating itself.
Well, this is why, you see people going into abusive situations, which you would think be the furthest thing from it, yet they end up marrying somebody exactly the same. Different packaging. I did the same. I married a Chinese guy. How different can I get from, British? But I ended up marrying my father, a browbeater. And it's that pattern was in there, even though I thought I'd broken it. It was still very much in there unknowingly to me. And so that cellular level is really, we really do, what we really need to do is just go and clean everything out before we start these ventures, right?
Well, it's so funny, because a lot of the work I do with people, I kind of do things like that. I do the business strategy, so I look at their niche, their branding, their marketing, their packages and pricing and everything. But it's so important, the inner work, which, I started off really working as a healer and a medium, so I've always worked with spirit and intuitively did my background in psychotherapy and hypnotherapy and so forth. But bringing both of these different aspects together, because often what I found is that there are amazing people out there that are fantastic at what they do. They don't know how to run a business, or they've got some kind of strategies that they're working with and they have some success, but their unconscious beliefs kind of sabotage them. So we need to have both. We need the business know-how, and we also need to clear our unconscious blocks and beliefs. Either one of them will trip us up and will sabotage us, slow us down, or completely derail us. Yeah.
Do you think that you can actually have maybe in the maverick side of me, I have no issue with money whatsoever. The more I have, the more I can do.
Right.
That's the way I look at it, because I've got an entire plan here, but it needs money. So the more money that comes in, the more I'm able to help other people. But then maybe the nurture side of me is still very much in that kind of, I've got to keep giving,
Yeah.
So do you find people who, with those kind of signs, are always in conflict with themselves?
For sure. I think, most of us have unconscious conflicts going on, and that's why we don't achieve our goals or our dreams, or we don't achieve them, usually not achieving them as quickly as we'd like to, because we slow ourselves down or get completely in the way of ourselves. But what I was saying about the beliefs, remember, so you've talked about clearing some poverty vow. Usually our vows that we make are on what we call the history level, so past lives, or sometimes on that level we also get kind of generational stuff, which is kind of like more than 7 generations back. Sometimes that ends up there on the history level. So for those that don't believe in past lives, we also talk about collective unconscious, okay? So we've got a lot of beliefs in the collective unconscious. So we can clear the vows, and we could have made them in this lifetime. We make vows, when we get married, when we join societies or religions. I remember, this one's really funny, I remember only probably a few months back, I suddenly thought about being a Girl Guide. And the Girl Guide pledge, I promise that I will do my best and do my duty to God and blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh my goodness, wow. So, yeah, and we kind of we do these things, kind of like little rituals, often without consciously thinking too much about it, or we say, like the love relationships, oh, I love you forever, and then often we find people have made those vows in other lifetimes and they still can't, or they're still connected to people that they've divorced, okay, and sometimes they've even married again, but they're still kind of energetically married to the first one, right? So it's like they don't receive the love fully because they're feeling on an unconscious level guilty. Yeah. So how we do money is how we do everything, okay? I mean, how we do anything is how we do everything. So it's all connected. So when we talk about money, yes, it's about prosperity, it's about living our purpose, it's about success, all of that. And it's also about love, right? Because if we're not able to receive money or hold on to money if it comes in, so some people can get plenty of money coming in, but they still can't hold on to it. Yeah? Have you ever had that happen?
Mwah. What? It seems to be open fingers. I keep trying to close them.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on, So, and that's really interesting, yeah? So sometimes it's kind of like the more you make, the more you spend, yeah?
But the more demands come in.
Yes.
You think, I've got something, and then it's, no, there's this bill, there's that bill, and suddenly the demands go up, and it's like you never can get ahead. I've always believed, and I think this is part of the alchemist thing, it is paint your picture of what you want. And I've always got a little video going of the life I do want, and how I do want to live it. So the invitation is constantly out there. And I didn't realize the vow of poverty. So, as I said, that's a recent obliteration and probably remnants of it still there. But it's, looking down at all of these things. My next one down from the alchemist is romantic. And, and it's like I'm looking at all of these things, and none of these kind of support financial invitation.
So let's talk about your shadow archetypes then. So because in this program, what we do is we look at the top 3, and then we look at the bottom archetypes. So the bottom archetype we call the shadow archetype. So you told me when you did went through this process that you had 3 that all had the same score, which is really interesting. And then I said to you, well, which one do you not like? So you had what were your 3 that were at the bottom?
Celebrity, accumulator,
celebrity,
and a ruler.
Celebrity, ruler, and
the accumulator.
Accumulator, yeah. Okay. So I mean, the accumulator is your inner banker. So I've got one of those. All right. So my accumulator wants to hold on to the money. It doesn't want to spend it. All right. It's like about yeah, it's always got its eye on what's going out and what's coming in.
And of course, this is at the bottom for me. So
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, that's quite a useful one to have in terms of money. But sometimes, again, it doesn't allow you to kind of have things that it allows you to spend on things that are essential. So I know for me and a lot of other people I've seen with this one, it's kind of like, well, I don't really need that, so I'll kind of make do, which, is okay, but, of course, your maverick would be like, well, if you want it, have it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, but the one that you really said that you didn't like, didn't think of yourself as, was the celebrity, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the reason I do radio. I like, being behind the scenes and celebrating people, and it's not a visual. So yes. Yeah.
So the celebrity is your inner big shot. Okay. So we know celebrities, they're stars on the TV, and they've always got, the latest handbag or, fancy stuff, all the branded stuff, So they like to be admired, they like to be visible, they like to make an impression. They're stars, look at me. So if you're a celebrity, you find it easy to spend on yourself and in your business, but you can often be on a roller coaster with money because of that. Okay, they're born leaders, and their purpose is to show other people how to accumulate wealth and to build a business while being admired and valued. Okay, obviously, sometimes what we see and sometimes what people perceive with celebrities, everybody, whether somebody's a celebrity or not, they're still a person, right? So sometimes I think we can get hooked up on that image of who somebody is, I've seen some amazing celebrities stepping up and doing amazing humanitarian work and sharing really great spiritual values, which for me, I was like, that's amazing, because their position in the world, when we look to the political world and we see leaders and what's been going on, a bit of turmoil and so forth, to see some other people who've got huge clout and leverage and, are able to influence people to be able to share spiritual philosophy and so on is great. But yeah, so the celebrity, I said to you, that's really interesting. The celebrity likes to be seen. Now, what you're doing with the nurturer is putting other people in the position of celebrity and hanging back in the shadows a little bit. Although, you've got 2-3 shows, haven't you? So, I mean, you're quite out there, but it's still that little, it's still that little bit of kind of like, when do you get to speak? When do you get to be seen? So I've seen that a lot. I've spoken on a lot of telesummits, and I see it a lot with people that are running telesummits, that they are doing all of this, and yet they've got so much information and knowledge and resources that they need to be speaking, or could be speaking, and often it's because they don't feel good enough, or because they've got visibility issues. So the celebrity is going to bring up all of the visibility issues, like who am I to be able to do that, or if I do that, people will judge me, So I think this could be a really good one for you to work with. So with the shadow archetype, if you work with and heal the shadow archetype, you'll find that will really move things forward for you, because the top 3 archetypes are kind of, they're generally quite ingrained in you. I'll give you another example. So for me, when I first started working with a system, my lowest one, so my shadow archetype was the connector, which is really interesting. Because you were saying about kind of being a bit of a loner, and I can do that. So, I love speaking, I love sharing, I do quite a lot of talking live and online. I'm great when I'm up front, right? But put me in a networking room where people are already in twos or threes, and I really uncomfortable, out of my comfort zone.
I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear
yeah.
you. Yes.
I don't know how to do small talk. I'm not particularly interested in small talk. I'd rather talk about somebody's past life, or
But I
Oh,
also find, it's not that I don't want to be a team player.
mhm.
It's just that I don't feel part of the team.
Yes.
And people turn to me for that maverick, for the alchemist, or even the nurture side of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not part of the team because I'm not a group person,
Yeah.
and it's not because I don't want to be. It just don't seem to be able to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. And for me, I love teaching and I love groups. I did, my early years did a lot of work as a psychotherapist and counsellor. So I did a lot of group work, and I love groups. But from that perspective, and I'm quite social, but it's just very different. So what I've had to learn to do, and I think this is really good for everybody in business, is to really look at, who can support you. Because relationships are really important to us. So the connector archetype is really valuable. Each of these archetypes have their role to play. So the connector archetype is great for joint venture partners, for networking, for gaining referrals for your business, for finding team people who can support you. So there's, different areas that, as I said, each of the archetypes will work in. Your celebrity is also about your branding, your PR, kind of like your message and kind of being seen and what you've got to say. So for you to work with a celebrity, I think, would be to look at, what would have to happen for you to be more visible and for you to step forward to share more of your knowledge and for you to be star. Yeah?
I've got people saying to me, "Where's your book?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have my own radio show every week. Where it's just me, Sarah's View of Life,
Which is great.
And I just basically just speak to whatever
Yeah.
is going on either in my life or in the world, whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like it's my audio blog,
Yeah.
it's but it's put out there because I'm a huge big thing on this free will.
Mhm.
It's like you listen if you're ready, you listen if you want to. It's all about drink the water when you're ready to. I'm patient. And I know that there are some people, when we're talking back to ruler, and I've interviewed quite a number of rulers, where they're just like the Pied Pipers. They can get up there, and I think they might be mixed with celebrity, because they can get up there, they can drum up a crowd, they can build up that hurrah, and they can just generate that money and have people opening up their purses. And that is, it's one actually that in a lot of ways repels me. Which I think is that nurture thing that coming through there. But I also respect it, and I wish I was it. So it's again the conflict. So these archetypes are so interesting.
Yeah, they are. They are. And, here's the thing. Often when we look at other people and we kind of are kind of maybe judging them or thinking, oh, I don't like that. Often it's because we've got beliefs going on around that,
Yeah.
So I know for me, I think I started off, that's over like 20 years ago now, so something like, I don't know, maybe, well, I started off working for free. I did a lot of work for free, for nothing. I worked a lot in spiritualist churches as a medium, all kind of like free or, just perpetual money and so forth. I did a lot of voluntary work. And then I started charging, and it was excruciating to have to ask people for money.
Yes.
Yes. And I would go over time. So I see this time and time again with therapists and healers and coaches too. They don't want to put their rates up. They really struggle. It's because often they don't recognize the value and the worth that they're giving and what that means to somebody. If you check, I'll tell you about a belief that I changed for myself, okay? I changed a belief for myself one day. I had this particular situation going on, and I thought, well, how have I created that? And I went in and I looked and I saw this belief. I pulled a belief, okay? So one day I'd had £5,000 come in. Somebody invested in a long-term program, and then 2 days later they kind of decided, they're having their wobble. So I was like, well, I know that's their decision, but like, how did I create it? And I just found this belief. And I could have not looked. A lot of people would have that situation and not think about it, but I believe we're always creating everything, right, and co-creating it. I found this belief, I pulled it. I had a virtual assistant who used to do some of my social media, and I'd given her these quotes, like a Rumi quote, and it was the very next day the quote came up, don't grieve what you've lost because it will come round in another form. And I can remember thinking, oh, ha, universe, right?
Yes.
Like, as if it was kind of like I just started put this long-term program together and stuff. And anyway, I had another person come in, and I had that £5,000 come back in the very next day, and I was like blown away. Completely blown away.
What happens with me, you hit on another point when you were talking about it, and I can't remember if it was Alchemist or what it fell under, is that I'm always coming up with ideas. And it's always about the advancement, in my case, of the radio station. Because obviously, yes, I have to generate an income. I need to live myself. But everything I'm doing is still of service. That is my niche. I've got to be of service. And it's of service first before before the money thing. And it's
so what's going on for you there, and this happens for a lot of people, okay? It's almost like you're choosing one or the other. It's almost like you can't have both.
I know.
Yeah? Do you know how to muscle test?
No.
Okay. You can, your hand's free at the minute, aren't you? So take 2 hands, put them up in front of you, and then put your finger and thumb of both hands together, so you've got 2 O's, and then you interlock them. Do this so everyone listening can learn how to muscle test super quick. Interlock them, and then if you pull, so if you say yes and you pull those 2 like you're trying to pull them apart, they should stay stuck if you say yes. Or if you say my name is Sarah, yours should stay locked, okay? So it's based on applied kinesiology. The body doesn't lie. The muscles hold tight when it's a statement that's true for you.
Right.
Or a statement that you believe. Okay, and then if you say no, the fingers should come apart.
Right.
Yeah?
Yep.
Did that work for
Yep.
you? Perfect. This is one of the tools that I use when I'm helping people to identify unconscious beliefs, because consciously, we believe we want to be rich, and we want to be healthy, and we want to be this and that and the other, we want to be successful. But on an unconscious level, we might have beliefs that, success is scary, or it's not safe for me to be successful. That kind of stuff running. So we test these beliefs. So I usually hear people's unconscious beliefs. So as you were talking, Sarah, you were talking about profit and service, and about having service before profit.
Right.
But what I felt was like a conflict between the two. So let me just see what belief you could test. Test this for me. It's slightly off of where we're talking now, but test I have to prove my value.
Okay, I'm locked.
Yeah. So, and I have to prove my worth. So people have these kind of beliefs that it's like almost like there's something around their self-worth, or how much they can charge, or how much they're worth, right? And when you think about pricing, you then tend to over-deliver and put more. You don't want to put more service so that you can make sure that people realise they're getting value from you. Okay, and we tend to overcompensate, right? So that can be something that happens for a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're working through this stuff, that they have trouble putting their prices out, they have trouble asking for the money, asking for the sale, and it's all to do with their worth and their value and how they perceive themselves. When we look at pricing, there's all kinds of different pricing models. The thing that's important is that when you're looking at your services or your products, your pricing, you want to make sure that you're aligned with your pricing. Okay, so if you decide you want to put your fees up, and then you internally are not feeling aligned with your pricing, what will happen is you'll have people that say things like, I can't afford it, or how much, and they're simply mirroring some of your unconscious beliefs back to you. Yeah. So, this is what had happened to me kind of in that situation I was talking about, because it was kind of like new to me, and I'd kind of done this thing, and I was like, gosh, it was more money than I'd ever charged, I'd paid somebody else that price mentoring, but that was another thing. Yes. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's different when it was me asking for it, little me. So I kind of wasn't quite strong with my kind of like worth around it, but simply pulling that one belief, the next day it came in, and that was it. Kind of never looked back. So pulling that one belief was worth £5,000
Right.
that very next day, and plus everything else it's been since then. So that is when we talk about value, we have to look at what is the value that you're giving people. So what is the value? So for me, when I started working with my shadow archetype, what happened was I started speaking on the Telesummit. So this is probably about 3 years back now. I started speaking on Telesummits and doing radio shows and teleseminars. I'd been speaking like live and kind of was, quite happy with that. But yeah, so what happened in terms of my business was I ended up with, I think there's over 43 countries now on my mailing list, which was kind of like really mind-blowing,
Yes.
and working with clients all over the world, and I used to have an offline business. I used to see people face to face and kind of do a lot of work that way, as well as a training business. But now I'm pretty much working with people Skype only, or unless it's higher end clients where I do kind of VIP days and stuff, or training. But yeah, so it's amazing. So when you actually start working with your celebrity, I think that your book, could be out there.
Yeah.
It's like when you stop holding yourself back, and when you let go of any of those beliefs that are going on around why you can't be visible, or why you're not good enough, or what have you got to say, or whatever it is, because it comes out in different ways. But yeah. So for you, my darling, that kind of like I used to have a belief that it was to do with love and money, and that love was always more important to me than money, as if you have to choose.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, do you find that it's also been kind of, that stigma that's been put on money? It's
Yeah.
and it's not just to do even with just spiritual people. It's like,
Mhm.
money is power. Money is, and we look at, the Trumpism that's going on right now, and he is the epitome of the abuse of money. But then we look at what we call the Bernieism, which is about the revolution and unison, and it's about still making the money, but dividing, giving everybody the chance to make it rather than just
Mhm.
the few. And so I think what it is, there's a global shift on monetary gain
Do you know
across,
what? I think it's so funny that you're talking about this now, because 2 nights ago I woke up. I don't always remember my dreams, but I had a dream, and I was talking to President Obama about Jeremy Corbyn, who's one of our UK politicians. And it was really funny because if you look at what's going on in the world, I used to be somebody who kind of didn't really do politics. I thought it was all a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
I don't like the way, I don't know, I suppose it's probably the same in the US, little bits that I've seen of it, but in the UK I don't like the way that a lot of the politicians are very disrespectful, and the kind of slanging matches and whatever stuff that goes on. And they say one thing and they get in and then they do another, all that kind of stuff. Well, really, if we look at what's going on, it's about power, yeah?
Yes.
And we're talking about money, and money's powerful, but so's love, yeah?
Right.
And we're all love, we're all energy, and we all can be powerful, yeah?
Well, it's like the Pope said, I don't care what faith you are, as long
Yes.
as it's based in love and kindness.
Yes.
So I think that, I think we're, at a human race right now, we're at a crossroads. What are we going to
Yeah.
feed? Are we going to feed the unity, the love, the kindness, the community? Or
Yeah.
are we going to feed the opulence and the power
Yeah.
that is at the expense of community?
Yes.
But we've
Yeah.
also got to realize we've got to stop giving the power to the wrong people and
Exactly.
start empowering ourselves to be a part of the solution. And
Yeah.
that very often means that we've got to empower our own foundation, and
Yeah.
we need money to do that. And I
Yeah.
can talk to myself like this. It's just kind of getting those other layers to
Yes.
actually hear what I'm saying.
That's right, because it's like some of this stuff is like we know that, but that's on the conscious level. But
Yes.
just like very briefly, because I'm kind of aware of time as well. 95%. If you imagine an iceberg, the 95% that's above the 95% is below the water is your unconscious, and the 5% that's above the water, just the tip of the iceberg, is the conscious mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's unconscious. That's always gonna win.
Well, as
right?
I say, the soul, the heart, and the spirit have their own
Mhm.
intelligence, and we
Mhm.
need to bring them into the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we actually need to listen to the soul first, because it's the divine
Mhm.
intellect, have it
Yeah.
resonate with the heart,
Mhm.
and then go into the spirit action, and then the mind will know what it needs to know at the time it needs to know it.
Mhm.
And it's something I preach and do practice when I can get out of my own way.
Yeah.
So it's, but we haven't hit on the romantic, because is the romantic
The
self-explanatory?
romantic The romantic, well, you see, they can all make money. So the romantic, if you just love using money to enjoy life, you spend money because you feel that you deserve it. That can be the romantic. In business, the aim for the romantic is to create financial security whilst at the same time living life to the fullest.
Right.
Yeah. So you can be extremely generous with your clients as well as maybe indulgent with yourself, but you need to find a balance so that you can also create security for yourself. So the negative aspect of the romantic, they like things, like I've got a romantic in my branding. So we like nice things that look nice and pretty and whatever, like my little laptop is pink. I like pink. Everything's pink in Kimmy's world. So, that's the romantic. That's okay. On the negative aspect, sometimes it's kind of about, being very grounded. The romantic may be not looking at, looking through rosy glasses and not seeing things as they are, but maybe seeing the potential. Yeah, and that can happen in our business as well.
Yes.
So we can get sidetracked. The romantic is your inner hedonist. Yeah, so it's the pleasure seeking. I mean, I have a program that's called The Wealthy Business Goddess. So I love the romantic is great from that point of view of allowing us to, it's about sacral chakra, it's about allowing us to have our desires. And our desires can be a good thing. And I loved what you were saying earlier about everything being aligned. I'm very much about my soul purpose, and everything that I'm doing is around my soul purpose. So the thing is that if we want to do good in the world, if we want to feed all these children, these orphanages that we want to look after, if we want to help refugees, everything that we would love to do and have going on in the world, it all takes money. Yeah,
Right.
and energy. If it's not an investment of money, it's going to be an investment of time. So it all takes that investment. But in this world, money is as a tool, it's energy. So if you can create an amazing business and you can create more money, you can choose what you want to do with your money.
Precisely. That's why I say, be as wealthy as you like. It's what you do with it. Because the money is not the evilness. It's in the wrong hands that it becomes that. So, I say, go and be as rich as you possibly can be. It's what you give back and what you seed. That's really where the true wealth comes.
That's right. But it's like, we say this on a conscious level. So what I'm saying to people, I've got on,
the 95% below the water.
Yeah. On my website, I've got a list of limiting beliefs people can download. And when you actually start muscle testing, you'll be amazed. There's a course that I teach where we look at over 100 money beliefs. And it's amazing what comes up, like on the genetic level, on the history level, on the soul level, because also when we're in spirit, we're learning. And so we pick up beliefs, So, it's fascinating. But clearing your unconscious blocks will really support you in being able to be aligned with your purpose and with your dreams and creating, whatever it is that you want to create in the world. And the archetypes are just an amazing way to also help align and to bring these gifts and abilities to, their biggest potential and working in harmony.
And the thing is that you are what you are, so don't beat yourself up about it. It's learning how to work with it and realizing, okay, I really have to step out of the mad drake or the nurture today, and I need to bring up more of the, the celebrity or the ruler or whatever, even though it might be my lowest, I need to tap into it. And it's not a question of you are and you're not. It's that bring up your weakness as your strength today and bring down your strength because it's your weakness today. So it's finding that balance, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, integrating it. All of our gifts. Everything is always serving us.
Yeah.
But it's about how we bring it together and how we ground it in the world. Really. Yeah, what we choose to do with it all.
I have to have you back again soon because there's so much more to talk about. We've only just touched the service today, and I know for an awful lot of people that are coaches out there, spiritual, self-development, or any of these type of coaches. Many of them are those nurturers, and placing, when it comes to pricing and placing value on their work, it's the very last thing, and that they're capable of. And this, basically what you're doing by helping people actually understand what they are, you're actually giving yourself permission to be what you are. I am that maverick, alchemist, nurturer, romantic. Those are my top.
Yes.
And they are ruling me. So I have to learn to step into, the most certainly the accumulator, and the connector, in order to kind of strengthen my gifts. So it's very, very interesting. We're going to have you back again and talk about other things. But how do people book you and take this program with you? Because you are a godsend. So people need to book you.
Thank you, my darling. So yeah, I'd love, as I said, I've got a website, www.kimberlylovell.com.
And that's 2 L's on the Lovell.
Yes, yeah. And people can find me on the website. I'm not sure if that's the link we're putting up on that. I think it is the link. Yeah. So that link, if you sign up on that website, you will also get the Sacred Money Archetypes quiz, and you'll also get my Wealthy Business Goddess 5 Magical Keys to Creating a Thriving and Prosperous Business. So in there I talk about niche and branding and all the different elements, bringing that together. So there's lots of goodies there for you. You can find me there, or you can find me on Facebook. I love Facebook. I love connecting on Facebook.
And Facebook is a wonderful business tool, because it's not just about posting; it's about interacting and getting to know people, and and seeing how one can help one another, because that's really about what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is we are all part of this global community, and we each have a gift and a strength. So how it's like the feast. What dish are you bringing to the table? And it's not going to be a dish that's going to serve everybody, but it's a dish that serves the whole.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, and I've got a Facebook group that's called the Wealthy Business Goddess Tribe. And so there we talk about spirituality, about money and abundance and business, and we kind of dive into, different elements of that money mindset and so forth.
So what's that called? Wealthy
Business Goddess.
Okay, then make it Okay. And, we really do have to look at it in a totally different way. And I think a lot of it is now that we're in a different shift, we're in a different energy. It is about inspiration for invitation now. And that, I think especially for the older generation, like myself in the 60s, there's still that permission to place value upon yourself. And the monetary worth, because it was not something that was there before, and it's a new thing. So it just requires us to kind of do an awful lot of talking to ourselves on every level, doesn't it?
I'm just thinking as you were talking, and I didn't know why, but this came to me, like wine, when wine matures and it gets very valuable, doesn't it?
Yes.
I'm not one for drinking expensive wine, but so as we mature, the more knowledge we've got, the more information that we've got. So of course we would be, getting more valuable.
Exactly. So it's never discount your wisdom. It's been hard earned.
No,
right.
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to have you back, because there's so much more to talk about, and there's so much more you're doing. I think it would be great to actually even kind of look at the branding and the sales marketing and all of that, because I think that would be wonderful to have you back on that.
Oh, it'd be lovely. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great.
I'd love to have you back very, very soon. So thank you so much, Kimberly. This has been fantastic, a real eye-opener, and a soul opener, and a money opener. And my bank balance has just gone up. So and for me, as I said, and for everybody, I'm sure, appropriate time, because it is one of the blockages that a lot of coaches do have. So thank you so much. And this applies to anybody doing anything in life, right? Place importance upon yourself. You are worth it. Stop putting a monetary gap on yourself, and just open up to your own personal abundance, and invite and invite and invite, and feel worthy, and it will be.
You've been listening to the Wealthy Business Goddess Show. If you've enjoyed the show, subscribe and review our podcast. Sign up to receive your Wealthy Business Goddess resources, and join us in the Wealthy Business Goddess community at www.lovekimberly.com/WBG. To find out more about how Kimberly can support you in creating the life and business of your dreams, or to watch the show via video, visit the website at www.kimberlylovell.com.